From Boca Raton, Florida, Rabbis Efrem Goldberg, Philip Moskowitz, and Josh Broide are taking you behind the Bima. The BRS rabbis schmooze about contemporary issues and talk to special guests who give a behind-the-scenes look at how they got to where they are and what keeps them going. Welcome to Behind the Bima.
Good evening. I'm Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, joined by my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Josh Broide. It's Wednesday night at 9 p.m., and we are here to take you
Behind the Bima.
Behind the Bima for a very special edition of Behind the Bima, a Meet the Yeshiva of South Florida edition. Normally, we have one guest. We have some incredible guests, by the way. I haven't even filled you in, lined up in the coming weeks. This is not one guest. This is an opportunity. One of the greatest, newest things to hit Klal Yisrael, to hit the Jewish world, is the Yeshiva of South Florida. And tonight's an opportunity for those who don't live in Boca, not in South Florida, who have not had the privilege of connecting with the Yeshiva, to get to meet the people behind the Yeshiva, learn a little bit about the Yeshiva, and be inspired by this incredible new energy, this incredible new movement of Torah. And we're going to welcome in that leadership one by one, little by little. It's going to be an incredible, incredible night. But first, Rabbi Broide, how are you?
What a night. First of all, it's great to be back on a full live show. Not to say that most of them are not live. I'm sure many of them are live, but sometimes we tape.
You never know what's going to happen. You never know.
This is a full hour. We're going to, maybe more. We are going to be hanging out together. So I'm very, very excited about tonight.
Tonight is actually a meaningful night on the Jewish calendar. Many people don't know or observe. I'd be surprised you don't know, Rabbi Broide, now that you are a born-again Chabadniker. But tonight is the night of Hey Teves, which is also known as Didan Natzach, because on Hey Teves, the 5th of Teves, a major victory. Didan Natzach means we won. And there was an announcement of we won. What did they win? It wasn't the Super Bowl. It wasn't the World Series. What did Chabad, what did the Rebbe announce that they had won? Are you familiar with this story?
No. I was actually learning with someone in the oil tonight, just for the record.
Really?
Yeah.
1985, Avodas Chasidei Chabad, the Chabad library, noticed that rare books and manuscripts were starting to go missing. And at the same time, they were missing from their library, which the Frierdiker Rebbe, the last Rebbe, had bought from Europe, an incredible amount, tens of thousands of Sfarim and rare manuscripts. At the same time they went missing, all of a sudden, collectors and sellers of rare books began to say there were suspicious things coming onto the market. just a coincidence. Just a coincidence.
We're missing that book, and it just happens to be
in 1985, there weren't as ubiquitous as today, surveillance security cameras everywhere, but they had cameras, and they found actually a grandson of the Frierdiker Rebbe, not obviously from the Rebbe, a grandson of the Frierdiker Rebbe was stealing books from the Avodas Chasidei Chabad library and putting them up for sale. And he claimed, look, I'm a grandson of the Frierdiker Rebbe. They come to me. They belong to me.
They're my books.
I inherited them. They're my books. I'm entitled to them. And it was a major source of distress for the Rebbe. And they tried to take it to a din Torah. And it ultimately went to court. And the trial lasted for 23 days. And the Rebbitzin, Chaya Mushka, the Lubavitcher Rebbe's Rebbitzin, the Frierdiker Rebbe's daughter, testified in court something that became iconic words. She famously said, I think the Sfarim, belong to the Hasidim because my father belonged to the Hasidim.
Wow.
Meaning you can't claim they were his, so they go to the grandson. They belong to Hasidim because my father belonged to the Hasidim, which apparently influenced the judge in his decision. 23-day trial. I won't say who the lawyer of the grandson was.
Was he a former guest on Behind the Bima?
Possibly as a former guest on Behind the Bima, the lawyer for the losing side. Right. And on January 6, 1987, the judge issued the ruling that it belonged to all of Lubavitch, and they pronounced Didan Natzach, means victory is ours, and there was incredible joy, and you don't need much of an excuse, but Hey Teves became a date and an excuse to celebrate, to get together, and the beginning of a new minhag. You know what the minhag is? Chabad on Hey Teves, the night that the Sfarim were restored to Chabad.
I have no idea. I'm just wondering, does everyone just take out a Sefer and just...
The minhag is to buy Sfarim.
Oh, it is
to buy Sfarim. Close. So here's my question to you, and we'll ask this question to our guest of Yeshiva of South Florida. Rabbi Broide, what's the most recent Sefer that you purchased?
It's a good question. I purchased 8 of them. I purchased 8 volumes of the Kitzur in different editions. We gave them out. We gave them out to the people that are part of the new shir that we've begun.
Now that you are in love with the Kitzur, teaching Kitzur every day.
Yeah. Well, I got to hand it over to Dr. Oppenheimer. I'm saying this week, I think he did, 4 out of the 5 nights so far. So
He's been
But
filling in.
but I think that's also a great lesson. Is that sometimes you say to yourself, I can't even begin to whatever the project is or whatever I hope to do because I can't commit to it every day.
Right.
So team up with someone. You say I can't be there every day, but find
Right.
someone
You don't
that
have to
can
be.
and fill in, and
Right.
then at least it gets going. And now there's, I don't know, 15, 20 guys that are coming, even some women that are coming right before mincha every day, and then
Really?
yeah, it's a
That's
nice
amazing.
it's a nice little chevra. I was just
That's
saying, you just
amazing.
mentioned a yard site. You got another big yard site that just ended.
Rabbi
Right,
Tight.
Rabbi Pinchas Tights, right? PM,
Rabbi Tights.
the
Rabbi Tights,
original.
you knew him very well. You grew up in Elizabeth. I knew him through our family that was very close with the Tights. In fact, Rabbi Tights, if I could move the camera,
I know.
Rabbi
It's right on
Tights'
your
picture
wall.
hangs on my wall. It's right next to my desk right now. A picture of Rabbi Tights and my grandparents, Sam and Ruth Aboff, Aliyah Shalom, and Mayor Dunn, the mayor of Elizabeth. I have a picture where they were. There's a public school in Elizabeth named for my grandfather. My grandfather was the superintendent of the public school system of Elizabeth, and that was at the event. I still remember it. I was a little kid, and that was a picture of that event, and it hangs on my wall. I think about Rabbi Tights. Our community, in many ways, tries to emulate Rabbi Tights' leadership. Big yahrzeit for sure.
Yeah.
And as we do transition to Yeshiva of South Florida, and soon we'll have the opportunity to start bringing people on, I do want to dedicate our Behind the Bima tonight. A Klal Yisrael, the Jewish world, lost an extraordinary person, an extraordinary supporter of Torah, maybe this generation's greatest supporter of Torah. Rabbi Morris Esfarmas, Rabbi Moshe Yitzchak, was nifter today, passed away today after battling illness for a while. I didn't know him well. I didn't know him well at all. I only met him a handful of times, in fact, although one of them was for many, many hours. But it's very relevant for tonight because when we said we were going to be opening a new yeshiva in South Florida, and an introduction was made, and we went to go see Rabbi Esfarmas, and we sat with him for over 3 hours, and he had very clear opinions about what a yeshiva needs. And we'll talk about that tonight when we'll meet the mashkiach of the yeshiva South Florida. He said, look, for yeshivas, all it cares about now, Rosh Yeshiva is so important. You also need a mashkiach, and you need to emphasize this, and you need to prepare the boys to be Bnei Torah for life. And he had very, very, very strong opinions. And he sponsored our entire kollel for the first year of the yeshiva, which was an enormous thing. An enormous thing.
What a
and I'll tell you even an amazing story about him. I said to him, for the yeshiva to get off the ground, not only the bachram, not only the boys, but there need to be older. There need to be kollel. In addition to the incredible rebbeim, we need to have a kollel. We need to have role models. We need to fill the base medrash with the mature sounds of Torah. And then I turned to him and I, got all ready and got all geared up. And I asked him, would he sponsor the kollel for the first year? And I asked him for a certain amount. And he said to me, yeah, you got it. And then a little bit later, he mentioned in passing that he thought like a yeshiva needs more than that amount of guys. So in my own head, I did this like risk assessment. And I said, this is a pretty risky move, but I'm going to go for it. I said, Rabbi Esfarmas, did I make a mistake a couple minutes ago by asking you for too little? He looked at me and he smiled and he said, you sure did.
You sure
I said,
did.
would you sponsor this many kollel? And he said, you got it.
Wow.
And it was an enormous thing that really helped get this yeshiva started. So it's not just our yeshiva. I think he supported 100 kollelim and yeshivas across America. Rabbi Esfarmas wore a little kippah sruga. He went to Karen B'Yavna, from Chicago, but certainly in the Lakewood kollel movement across America and every stream of Torah orthodoxy, he didn't really care. He just supported Torah.
Yeah,
and he told us the stories. He told us of when he was in Karen B'Yavna in Eretz Yisrael. He was in his words, he was a ben bias by Rav Shach. He was close to Gedolei Yisrael, and he developed this very broad view. And he was very blessed and worked hard and was extremely successful in life. And he used it to support Torah. And he was a big character, no doubt. And such a character that, by the way, people think that he didn't necessarily have anivos, humility in his support of all that Torah. When we said, how can we acknowledge, how can we thank you, what can we do, name, he said, don't even mention my name connected to the yeshiva, because that could complicate things for the yeshiva. What do you need that for? So humble, it was so lishma. So he wrote one check for his commitment to get our kollel started of our yeshiva, and didn't ask for anything in return. Not his name anywhere, nothing at all. So it's a big loss for Klal Yisrael. And there are yeshivas and kollelim across not just America, but across the world, whose very existence is only because of his generosity.
Right.
And he definitely had strong opinions and strong thoughts and passion and enthusiasm, but that made a richer Torah world. And that's a huge loss. And it's appropriate for us to dedicate this episode as we meet the Yeshiva of South Florida in his memory think the Levaya is taking place in Chicago in a few hours, and he'll be buried in Eretz Yisrael, and his family should get nechama, should get strength through the wonderful legacy that he leaves and the transformational difference that he made to Torah across this.
Amazing.
Across the
Listen,
entire
before you bring the yeshiva on, I'm sure pretty much everyone's wondering, where did you come up with the idea to start a yeshiva? Like, where does the kollel? How does that? You know, what I'm saying, you're going to speak to the guys and we hear about what they're doing, but where did it begin?
The introduction. Yeah. So that's actually a perfect segue for us to start and then bring the Rosh Yeshiva on. It goes back several years, and I was with someone in our community who Yibadal L'chaim Tovim V'Aruchim should have a long life and a healthy and a happy life, as an outstanding member of our community who's transformed and impacted our community in the short time that he's been here by making a huge difference. And I don't have permission to say his name publicly.
You can say my name. It's okay.
But he said to me, we were once traveling somewhere together, and he said to me, you know, Rabbi Goldberg, what's your wish list? Or like 5 things that you dream of that you one day want to make happen. Yeshiva wasn't on it. Actually, this other dream of, you know, why do we have to send our children for college elsewhere? Can't we create branches of whichever system locally in South Florida so our children could have a Jewish college experience locally without having to go anywhere? So the next day he calls me and he says, I'm flying down with Aaron Cutler and we're going to start a yeshiva with a college. I was talking about the girls. I have 6 daughters and a son. Right. I was talking about the girls. And Makachava, he flew down several times, and he pushed and he pushed and he pushed. And we had this dream, and it's a whole process. We didn't know. Yeshiva of South Florida. Who was it serving? Only South Florida people? At first, was it that Boca has a wonderful yeshiva, TTB, we're very close. We work closely with beautiful Torah institutions, but this would be another. So was it for Boca, South Florida as a whole, which has, thank God, many yeshivas, or the whole Torah world? Was this going to fill a niche that wasn't being filled? Was this geared towards a more yeshivish world where they tend to go to Beis Medrash after high school before going to Israel? Right. Was this geared to the more modern Orthodox, for lack of better terms, you know, I hate these labels, world, who go to Eretz Yisrael, go to Israel after high school for a year or two and then go to yeshiva? So we went through all of this, trying to debate and study demographics and understand the needs and the niches and consult with big people and look. And, you know, things changed radically when Rabbi Simcha Shabtai, who we're going to speak to, became our menahel, came on board and gave his all and worked tirelessly. And from there, found the perfect Rosh Yeshiva, dream come true Rosh Yeshiva, who is still a dream come true because he doesn't live in Boca. He's Moser Nefesh. His sacrifice is unbelievable. His family that he comes down every week, we couldn't dream. And from there, the pieces fell into place of the most amazing Rebbeim and Anala, just incredible, passionate, huge themselves, Talmidei Chachamim, scholars, role models, examples, mentors. And from there, you create a yeshiva and you wonder. I don't know if you've ever been part of starting something and people are changing their lives. We're going to bring them on in a moment. But You're talking about the Rosh Yeshiva, the Rebbeim, maybe not the Rosh Yeshiva, he took many risks coming, but those who moved here gave notice, left their positions, left and packed up their homes and said, I'm going to Florida. That was before we had one boy registered. One bacher registered for the yeshiva. Right. What happens? What happens if, like for me,
what happens if no one shows up?
I don't get paid a penny. I don't make a living. I have another full-time job. I'm very limited in my involvement. It's not day to day. You know, my life would continue if the experiment failed. Right. And for the enormous, the Balabasu, incredible generosity, there's some risks, you know, financially, but his life wouldn't be affected if it failed. Be a disappointment. But the Rebbeim, they gave notice and they were moving before you.
There's nowhere to go back to.
Yeah. So one of the things that Rabbi Esformas, maybe Rabbi Stoll when we have him on, Rabbi Shabtai, one of the ways that we got him to support the Kollel, because he had a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts, but we used a language, a lashon, that really gripped him. And each time we spoke afterwards, he reminded us of that sentence that we said, which really made him committed to do it. We said failure is not an option. Our community and the Torah world needs this yeshiva. Fail, because he said, "What if you fail? What if this? What if this?" We said, failure is simply not an option. Right? It's just not an option. And he loved that. If you knew Rabbi Esformas, he loved it. Failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. For the Chashmonayim, failure wasn't an option. Right? For throughout our history, failures pashut. It's simply not an option. He loved that, and that's it. So you formulate the yeshiva, and then you start recruiting. And recruiting, we'll get into this with all the hanhala with the Rebbeim in a moment. But you do recruiting, and recruiting these days is recruiting is tough and it's frequent and recruiting is competitive. And then you wonder, like, okay, there was a lot of interest. There was a great groundswell of people who said, this is a wonderful thing that you're doing. But when push comes to shove, will they sign up?
Right.
Our yeshivas in conjunction, 8 out of the 13 boys are also in Touro, getting a Touro University degree. But, will they sign up? I'll go so far as to tell you that we had an amazing Elul, and then Sukkot break comes, Ben Azmanim comes, and the boys go home.
You thought maybe they weren't going to show back.
So the day the Newsman started after Sukkot, I went to the yeshiva.
Yeah.
Personally, I went because I wanted to make sure, I wanted to see with my own eyes, did they come back?
Did they show up? Right.
Did they come back? Because, you have this thought, maybe, it was a great, you'll hear all about, it's an immersive yeshiva. It's all in one location. It's beautiful. You're out of town without distractions. It's intent. The Rebbeim are incredible, accessible, warm, hands-on. It's amazing. Okay, but maybe these boys go home and over Sukkot, wherever they are, they're with their friends who tell them about the yeshiva. Maybe they go, that was fun, but I'm ready to go join my friends there.
Right.
Like, are they going to? And when they all came back, I let out the biggest sigh of relief you can imagine. That was Ben Azman of Sukkot. Now we had off for Hanukkah, Shabbos Hanukkah, and now we got lucky because the boys went home, and then they just came back. They just got back, and they just got back from, they had to dig out from under snow and blizzards and freezing cold. And now we had no fear that they were all coming
never
back.
Going back.
There was no question they were all coming back now. So Rosh Yeshiva, we're joined by Rabbi Yoni Levin, my dear friend Rabbi Yoni Levin, the Rosh Yeshiva. Rosh Yeshiva, you're a dream come true. We never imagined or dreamt that we were going to get you. It's incredible. Rosh Yeshiva is sitting in the outdoor courtyard of the yeshiva. Those are lights. That's not the ceiling. They're not lights in a ceiling. That's the sky behind the Rosh Yeshiva. And those are string lights, and those are real trees. And this is this is a December 28th night, Hey Teves.
No winter coat.
No winter coat, sitting outside. But Rosh Yeshiva by 11, it's a big Messiah, it's a big sacrifice that you come down every week, Monday to Thursday, a bigger sacrifice for your family. Why? Why were you willing to do it? Why take a risk on it? Why leave your family? Tell us about your connection with the yeshiva.
Sure. I mean, it goes back to the phone call. I still remember the phone call. It was an Erev Shabbos when you called me maybe 2 years ago. This was quite a process. And I've always had a dream to teach in yeshiva, to teach at the highest level. And opportunities have come along the way, but nothing like this. And I remember when you presented this idea to me, I said, this is the first idea I've heard in a while that I'm actually excited about. Because the opportunity to teach at a high level, to help boys grow, to help make Bnei Torah, to help move them on to the next stage in their life, to connect to Torah, connect to Yiddishkeit. And obviously I've got a lot in New York, family in Ish Kodesh there, and this was a very big struggle, but Baruch Hashem, the excitement of the yeshiva was enough to have me, and more importantly, my wife, to agree to this.
Yeah, for people to appreciate, I shared this recently to the yeshiva itself. My daughter in middle school had a project at school to do a project of somebody who was Moser Nefesh, somebody who sacrificed for Yiddishkeit, for Judaism. And, there's certain obvious, you could do a project about survivors and their Mesiras Nefesh. But even the project was not about people who give up their lives. It was more, people who didn't work on Shabbos, people who were Moser Nefesh. And my daughter did her project on Rebbetzin Levin and her Mesiras Nefesh that her husband leaves every week to go start a new yeshiva in Florida. Ad kedei kach, that's how far this level of Mesiras Nefesh goes. It was the subject of her report, and I'm proud to say that she got a great score on her, a great grade on her report, because the story is so powerful and compelling, and we are so deeply appreciative, and we should thank. Rabbi Levin, tell us a little bit, Rosh Yeshiva, tell us a little bit about your background and where you grew up and what you prepared you for this day. And you didn't always think you were going down that track of teaching Torah in this way and at this high level.
That's certainly true. Goldberg and I grew up together. I mean, he's a few years with different age. I won't say who's older, but we're a few years different.
A lot more gray in my beard.
I'm catching up. We grew up in Bnei Asher in Teaneck. Wow. And I mentioned in the past that we both our families sat in the front 2 rows of Bnei Asher under Rabbi Przansky. And I say to people, when your family sits in the front row, that shows that your parents have a real covered for Tefillah, covered for the Rav, and it makes a big impact. Me, my siblings, and Rabbi Goldberg and his siblings. But that's where I started off. And never did I dream that I would end up being a Rebbe, a teacher, a Rav of any sort. I used to be an actuary. I was an actuary for 1 year of my life. Yeah. I majored. I was a big math geek. I majored in math. And I was always told you should be an actuary. Mathematics goes with actuary work. So that's what I did for you. My wife and I, we actually used to work together. She's much smarter than I am. So she had a job at PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, as an accountant. And she got me a summer internship as an actuary. After 2 summer internships, I worked there full time. And after a full year, I retired and I quit, and I decided this was not for me. And I remember saying to my wife that I never learned Baba Kama. And how do I go on with life without learning Baba Kama? Let me learn a few more Masechtas and maybe I'll go back to work. And we decided then that I'll go back to learn and we'll see where HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes me. I had a real fear of public speaking. I did not ever anticipate being a rabbi, to be a rebbe, to be a rav, to give a drasha. I had a real fear of public speaking.
Wow.
And however things happened, I ended up here.
You take that step, Hashem gives you the kochos to finish, which really is amazing. So, Rabbi Levin, people, certainly they know you're as a Rav of Eish Kodesh and connection to Pnimius HaTorah and to the world of Chassidus and to the depth of that, which is an incredible gift to the yeshiva too, that you bring that. I know you give a weekly shir on Chassidus also to the boys. But talk about the siyum and this year's siyumim that you make every year. I know you don't like to. You're very humble. I'm going to make you. I'm going to force you to. It's on me.
I make a siyum. I make an annual siyum. I mean,
Annual siyum.
What are we making a siyum on here?
Rabbi, it's my fault. I shouldn't have asked you to do that. Rabbi Levin makes an annual siyum hashas. An annual siyum hashas. We have a member of our community. Rabbi Levin was at this siyum. A member of our community who was inspired by the Rosh Hashiva siyum hashas to himself take on and complete and make a siyum hashas. He's now doing it again. The next round. He did it in 2 years. And Rosh Hashiva, I know now you're adding Yerushalmi, a siyum, an annual siyum on Bavli and an annual siyum on Yerushalmi. How do you get it all done?
I'm trying to just finish Shnai Mikra.
I'll tell you a few things happened in my life when I decided to do this around 10 years ago. One of them was I used to, when I was in the 5 towns, I would go to YU. I was finishing up the Kol Elyon. And it was a bit of a trek this way and that way. And then I started teaching in DRS. We had a base medrash program also. It was called Lev Shlomo with Rabbi Aryeh Leibowitz. And I just saved around 2 hours of my life not being in the car anymore. I said, what can I do with 2 hours and then some? And then that same week when I was thinking about this, someone gave me a book to read. I'm forgetting the name of it. Rabbi Riedi wrote it. 1 Minute Masmid, it was called. I read it. I couldn't put it down. It was a fascinating story about taking advantage of every second of your life. That same week, I saw a Baal Bus walking to the subway or to the train, learning while he was walking. I saw a second Baal Bus the next day walking, learning in the street. So these guys are taking advantage of their time. Right. I've got all this extra time now, and let me see what I could do. My brother-in-law, I have an older brother-in-law who's a big Eloi, who wrote around 80 Sfarim. He just made a Sima Shas, a huge Sima Shas. Said, maybe I could do this. And I just put a lot of time, a lot of energy. I like to set myself up with goals. I'm very ambitious, and things came together, and this is what happened.
So what an incredible thing. The boys of the yeshiva have a Rosh Hashiva who, practices what he preaches, is a masman himself, and is completing and making these siyumim, plus the Chassidus. What's your hope and dream for the boys? As a Rosh Hashiva, it comes from the top. What's the hope and dream? A boy who learned in Yeshiva of South Florida. In 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, when he becomes himself a balabas, he's married, he has children. What's the dream for what he looks like, how he's living, that he looks back and says Yeshiva of South Florida, in addition to the other places he learned, but in his formative time, Yeshiva of South Florida helped mold and shape him into what? What's the dream for the product of the Yeshiva of South Florida?
I think the dream is different for every single one. I think our goal is to help the boys, the Bachim, fulfill their dreams. Everyone's got a different tafkid. Not every single person's meant to learn in kollel. Not every single person meant to be a rebbe. Some will, some won't. Some will be a businessman, some will be lawyers, doctors. Our goal is to help put them on the path to be successful in both ruchnius and gashmis. And our hope is that they're Bnei Torah. If they're going to be a rebbe, great. If they're going to be in kollel, great. If they're going to be a businessman, great. But our goal is to make Torah the focus of their life.
That's incredible. I'm just wondering, as someone that's from New York, and obviously we haven't been in the New York area for many, many decades now, are people saying that Florida is becoming a new destination for Jewish community, for Torah? And as we see a lot of people moving in, obviously many people are still holding out. They're still up in New York, New Jersey, and in that area. Are you hearing more people say, you know what, Florida is a future. It has a very strong Torah future.
I hear people saying that a lot in the 5 towns community where I am, but I'm not seeing people actually move from the 5 towns. I'm hearing people moving from other places, and Florida certainly is growing. But people are talking about it, but I don't know anyone from the 5 towns yet in my circles who've moved.
There's the destination. The infrastructure is in place, including
Right.
the yeshiva being an important part of that. So, Rabbi Levin, last question. We want to bring on a lot of others, and we know there's a Siyam Bavli and Yerushalmi to be made, so we don't want to take too much time. So, Hey Teves, minhag to buy Svarim, apparently, at least in Chabad, Dida Natzach. What's the most recent sefer the Rosh Hashiva has bought, or what's the most cherished sefer the Rosh Hashiva owns?
So this is not going to be so fascinating, but it will be connected to what you were talking about, my Siyam. I was in shul with next to Rav Weinberg. I sit next to him, and I'm very good at keeping my svarim very well bound and kept. And I was never into guys throwing the Moskowitz to the ground and the Gemaras and needing to bind it and the pages falling out. I keep mine very neat as if they're never used. But there's one set that has taken abuse over the years, and that's my set of Shas. A small set of Shas that I got when I was in yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael the first year, around 25 years ago, has gone with me from then till now. And it was starting to fall off. I was doing Baba Kama a couple weeks ago. So as much as Shabbos, I turned to Rav Weinberg. I said, what's the right thing here? I've got such a sentimental value to these Gemaras that I've been using for 25 years, and in particular the past 10 years, even more so. But the binding's falling, the bold Rashis are not really so much there. What do I do? So I said, I noticed that Rav Weinberg had just spoken Shal Shudas. He's using a Shemesh Shmuel, but it was a very old edition of the Shemesh Shmuel. So I said to Rav Weinberg, is this something sentimental that you're not buying a new Shemesh Shmuel? He said, no, the difference is the Shemesh Shmuel he was using, although the outside was worn, but the inside was the same exact letters. They never updated the letters the one he had. But he said for sure that if something has better print, it's better to buy the better print over the sentimental value. So the next day, I went to Z Berman, bought a brand new set of small Shas. That's my newest purchase, and I've been using it ever since.
We look forward to it wearing out. Now, it's interesting. You did not say that your favorite sefer is your own, is the sefer that you wrote. Tell us about that sefer.
That sefer, it's called Libi Omer on Hanukkah. And over the years, I've got more involved in Pnimius and Hasidus. And something that always drew me closer to the Yom Tovim was how the different tzaddikim, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Yosef, Yaakov, Moshe, Yosef, David, all of them, how they connected to each Yom Tov, Hanukkah, Purim. So I started to piece together some ideas. Rav Weinberger, who knows every sefer out there, I'm told, is the second largest consumer from Beagle Eisen in the entire world. Every 2 weeks he gets a new box of Svarim. He goes through what he wants. What he doesn't want, he sends back. He always told me that if he wasn't a rabbi, he'd be a librarian. He's got thousands of Svarim. He knows every sefer, what's in it, where it is. So either way, I asked him, is there any sefer that writes about how the Shiva Roam, the 7 shepherds, the 7 tzaddikim, they connect to Hanukkah? He says he's never seen it. But decided to write a sefer on Libi Omer about Hanukkah.
Amazing. Everyone should get it. Is it on sale now, Motzei Hanukkah? In time for next year's Hanukkah?
I'm not sure. I don't get too involved in the sales, but it's out there somewhere.
Everyone should have a copy. Rosh Hashiva, first of all, I appreciate everything you're doing for our community. Your family's Mesiras Nefesh, the leadership and the mentorship that you offer. I appreciate you did not tell the story about when I threw you out of Teen Minion when we were kids. I'm very grateful for that. So we're grateful to the Rosh Hashiva. We thank you, Rabbi Levin, for all that you do and for the yeshiva. And we're super excited, not only for the present, we're even more excited for the future and for what it holds.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and looking forward to the next time.
Thank you. We have the chance now with 2 more guests, our Menahel and the Mashgiach of the Yeshiva, Rabbi Simcha Shabtai, Rabbi Simi Shabtai on the right, and Rabbi Rafal Stoll, Rabbi Rafi Stoll on the left. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll hear and recognize their voices. Menahel and Mashgiach, welcome behind the Bima. Wonderful special edition Meet Yeshiva of South Florida. It's great to see you both. All of a sudden they're shy. We'll start Menahel. Rabbi Shabtai, we'll start with you. Rabbi Shabtai, you had a lot on your plate. You're Rosh Beis Medrash of BRS's Beis Medrash, doing so many other things. You jumped on board and you haven't stopped. I think everybody involved with the yeshiva will say that Rabbi Shabtai is this force to be reckoned with, his engine. Nothing's too big or small to take care of, to deal with the yeshiva. Why did you get excited? What in your life or your background got you excited to be involved in the yeshiva? Hold on, are you muted? Did we hear you? We lost. We're going to go to Rabbi Stoll in the meantime. Rabbi Stoll, Same question.
He's an unav like that, you know? He wouldn't even answer the question.
You back? Can we hear him now, Rabbi Shabtai? No, still struggling to hear. So we'll go to Rabbi Stoll for a moment, and then we will come back momentarily. Rabbi Stoll, mashgiach. Did you know? At what age did you say, I'm going to be a mashgiach? You know, people hear the word mashgiach, they think you're maybe in the kitchen supervising the food. But yeshivas historically have had mashgichim. Maybe start out by telling us, what does mashgiach mean to you? Rabbi Sformas, you remember that meeting. You remember how much he spoke about the importance, the role of a mashgiach, significance of the mashgiach. So what does a mashgiach mean to you?
I guess I just try my best to teach Torah. I think that's probably what I would say. But I'll tell you the most. You're asking that question. I don't see myself as a mashgiach. It's a little daunting. I see like Rabbi Yochanan Levovitz as a mashgiach. I see like Rabbi Shmuel Volba as a mashgiach. I think it's a bizayon to the name of mashgiach. I apologize that I have that title. That being said, there's a line that I saw in a book. I think it's called Reb Lezer, about Reb Lezer Gridzeller.
Yeah.
It's there's a line in there which I love. He was asked about what makes his yeshiva unique, or I don't know if he was asked. Someone was saying what makes his yeshiva unique, and it was a Chassidish yeshiva. And usually in Chassidish yeshiva, I'm not such a chassid myself, but in Chassidish yeshivas, I'm understanding that like the Rebbe is the Rebbe, you know, and that we all follow the Rebbe. And he said that in his yeshiva, it wasn't about trying to follow what the Rosh Yeshiva does. It was that the Rosh Yeshiva is looking in a direction of truly great people, and we're all trying to get there together. So I think that my role is just to love Rabbi Rucham Levovitz, to love Revolba, to love all the other greats, and try to like just gather a chevra of people to love them with me.
But is the role of a mashgiach different than a rebbe? How is it different than a rebbe? Obviously, both are teaching, communicating, transmitting, modeling Torah. But what additional component is there for a mashgiach?
I think there's a lot of one-on-one conversations, getting to know every bacher, to see what everyone, you know, I always say, every Talmud will know, I always say that I don't teach any Torah. I teach students. Meaning so you really have to just know Bachrim. And I think I love my job. I love everything about what I do because you just get to know people. I love people. And I think that's what Mashgiach is trying to do. Just trying to know people and trying to get them to see even greater people, you know, and we're just trying to get there together. I really just see myself as a Talmud trying to become greater myself with my friends.
Anyone who knows Rabbi Stoll knows how on fire you are, not only in your role at the Yeshiva of South Florida, but also as the head of the Masmidim at the Katz Yeshiva High School, and just you light the people around you up on fire, that energy. So how is it? I mean, you got Baruch Hashem, Kenai Nahara, a beautiful family, now multiple roles and responsibilities. It seems like you never tire. It seems like you never run out of energy. You're passionately on fire, and that's contagious. I saw that when you were in the Kollel in Hollywood, and you got the whole community, rallied everybody to take on learning. There was a big siyum. I had the privilege to attend, and I saw the way you were lighting everyone. And now you're lighting like teenage kids on fire. You're lighting Bachram in the yeshiva and the Beis Medrash on fire. How do you not run out of energy? How are you still on fire?
Again, I'm not going to talk about myself, but I'll tell you another great person that I love. There's a book. I'm sorry for calling all these Gedolim books, but I can tell you I love great people. There's a book about Rav Moshe Twersky Zatzal. And I know his brother, Rav Meir Twersky, is a Rebbe of mine. And I wasn't zocha to ever meet Rav Moshe Twersky in person, but just knowing Rav Meir Twersky and how much he affected me, I can only imagine and just reading about the greatness of Rav Moshe Twersky. And in chapter 5 of that book, it's called A Malach in Our Midst. If you haven't read it, you should get it. It's chapter 5 of the book. I think it's called Insatiable Talmud, I think, or Talmud for Life. I forgot which one. And in that chapter, he talks about Rav Moshe Twersky was always yearning for more. He was already a Rebbe first of all, he's coming from Rav Soloveitchik was his grandfather. He learned by the greats of the world. He learned Rav Abba Berman was his father-in-law. We're talking about a person who's met greats. He was a Rebbe in Taras Moshe for years. So he was a Rebbe, an accomplished Rebbe, a Talmid Chacham, learning by the greats of the world. And and he was always, even in his 40s, 50s, he was always looking for more. So much so that he took off a Zman, an entire Elul Zman, to go to Manchester because he said he needed to be mushba by the Manchester Rav. A Rebbe in yeshiva, he just said, I need that part of my Avodas Hashem in my repertoire. And then he used to go once a week from Yerushalayim. He would travel to Bnei Brak. His wife said about him, this is what the book says. His wife said about him at the Shiva that of all the things in his week, and he was a Talmud of hundreds of Talmidim, a person who took every ounce, every moment of Torah, every moment he had, he used for Torah. And the most special time that he looked forward to all week was when he would go to Bnei Brak to hear a shir by someone that he considered his Rabbi, Rav Aliyah Weintraub. And his wife said that was the most precious time to him all week. That was so inspiring to me, a person.
When he went from being a Rebbe to a Talmud.
He never stopped being a Talmud. He never stopped being a Talmud.
That's the key. And that's the key.
I think so.
Amazing. Rabbi Shabtai. Can we hear you, Rabbi Shabtai?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
The great Manal of the Yeshiva of South Florida, Rabbi Shabtai. Rabbi Shabtai. So, Rabbi Broide asked me before we began the conversations, tell the background. How did the yeshiva start? So you, from almost its inception, as the Manal, really the first, I think, person who came on board from the Hanhala, from the rabbinical staff. What are the miracles that you've seen? What does it take for a yeshiva to go from like a thought and a dream in minds to actually in action, having a campus and a beis medrash and Talmidim and a kollel and shirim and coordinating college for those who want that? Have you seen miracles have to happen for it to come together?
It takes a Rabbi Shabtai. That's what it takes.
Shabtai is the miracle.
I'll tell you, you hear stories, you read books about people talking about miracles. I don't know. I'm a very critical person. You hear miracles, but you make sense out of them. The things we saw with our eyes that happened that did not make any sense, just so many of them. It was phenomenal. But I want to go back for a second. I heard before you were talking about Rabbi Esformis, and I know that he's going to be buried in another few hours. There's one thing he said that was so phenomenal. It was such an incredible meeting. The fact that we met with him, the fact that he agreed to contribute, every part of that was just incredible siyata shmaya. But one thing that was clear about that man was that he could not care less what anyone in the world thought of him. Not at all. And he made that very clear. If it wasn't clear to you, he made very clear. He could not care less of anybody. And the phrase he kept on saying, which I think is right now, 9:37 Eastern Standard Time, is so timely. He's being buried in 2 hours. He kept on saying, I'm going to have to meet my creator. The moment when I meet my creator.
He did.
And that was mamish, his driving force for everything. The fact that we met this man, it didn't make any sense. The fact that this man just agreed to be involved in our yeshiva, it's such a passion, such a drive. It was so aside from the fantastic things that have happened and all the incredible people who've been involved, and also the anonymous donor that you mentioned, who's just in another world, the fact that we meet these people. For me personally, the fact that each one of these Rebbeim has agreed to come on. You saw Rabbi Levin, Rabbi Stoll. You can't even imagine Rabbi Stoll. Rabbi Stoll, when he was in yeshiva years ago, you talk about being a force and a fire now. So sometimes when I think you see a force and a fire of people, they're very extroverted. They like talking to people. They like having a hashpah on people. If you would have seen him when he was in Kola, he had a hashpah on people. He was so driven, though, so focused on his learning. I don't remember any other married guy who's in the beis medrash so late. And that for that person with that hasmada and that intensity to then bring all his kochos in terms of having an influence on Katz Yeshiva High School and our yeshiva and the broader South Florida community, each one of these people, meeting these people and them agreeing to get involved is its own miracle. Rabbi Levin coming is a miracle.
So Rabbi Shabtai, typically of you're being humble and modest and redirecting, but the truth is that we have the dream team. The yeshiva has the dream team in its first year. It's in its inception, inaugural year. To have such a dream team is amazing. And I do remember that with Rabbi Esformis. He talked about all these gedolim he knew, and he talked about not only his closeness, he talked about shared stories of when he pushed back on many of them, and each time he would end by saying, look, I've got work to do. Because Baruch Hu put me in this world, he gave me resources, and I will have to meet my creator. I will have to answer for it. And so it doesn't matter if this one will be upset or that one. 100% you're right. That notion of meeting his creator, and I'm sure he's being greeted with open arms for all that he had done by that creator. Rabbi Shabtai, coming back to you. So we've seen miracles in the way that it started. Maybe talk, if you can, share a little bit about some of the coordination of the yeshiva. Obviously, you're a Torah influence in the yeshiva as well as the Menahel, but also coordinating an enormous amount. What's the connection from the beginning? We knew that the boys that we were going after would not only want a intense place and warm rebbeim and the highest level of Torah learning, but most would also want to be pursuing a college degree. And certainly while we had explored and we're open to different options and opportunities, we have a partnership today with Torah University. Maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, I think I'll just give a backdrop to that, meaning how we got to that point. At Boca Raton Synagogue, we've had for the last 10 years a summer kollel, where we have guys, 20, 25 guys come for a month and learn. We've had a Levin be a Rosh kollel and a Stoll be a Rosh kollel. And we've seen guys I felt actually in many years ago, I was in LA, while you had an LA summer kollel, that I felt as if was at a transformative impact on me. And I found through these summers that the guys that were coming to us, it was having a tremendous impact on them also. So I had a sense for the type of guy that I think was receptive to the types of rebbeim that we were collecting together. I think the types of people that would be inspired and influenced by a community like Boca Raton, like somebody like yourself as well, meaning once you start putting the pieces together, who are the types of people that will do best and thrive best, and this is the place and these are the rebbeim for them. So then that started coming together in terms of the type of person that we're going for. Again, we're open for everybody, but in general, we're creating this niche, this niche in the yeshiva market that we think is missing. That's kind of where it was coming from. And to that extent, we pursued a partnership with Torah. At first, it was like a little bit random, like, who are you? Why are you reaching out to us? But then I think when Rabbi Goldberg in particular persuasively presented kind of what we're trying to accomplish, I think they really saw, and they've been fantastic in being flexible, in changing around their schedule, and really respecting what we're trying to accomplish in the yeshiva, and thereby tailoring their classes and the schedule to allow the boys to thrive in the yeshiva and to thrive in the college as well. And we're very appreciative to their partnership.
So maybe in 20 seconds, what's a typical day? What's the schedule like at the Yeshiva of South Florida?
It's a little intense. Shacharis is 7:30. After Shacharis, they have halacha seder, breakfast, maybe a little bit of ping pong. Then morning seder goes from 9:10 to 12. Shir from 12 to 12:45. Then guys have a break 12:45 till on a normal day 2:15. Tuesdays have a little bit longer break. But then till 2:15. 2:15 we have mincha. Then there's musar chaburas and a musar shmuz sometimes. And then 3 to 5:25 roughly a second seder. For the average guy, 9 out of the 13 are doing college. At 5:25 they break. That's after they're doing Bekias. And they have dinner. And then college starts at 5:55 and goes until 8:10. It's like a double class that's split up with a break in between. And then we have night seder officially getting going already at 8:30. And guys have chavrusa starting at 8:30, and then at 9:30, there are different chaburas and different optional things that different guys partake of. And the night seder goes till 10 o'clock Ma'ariv. And when Rabbi Stoll's in town, so a few nights a week when Rabbi Stoll stays in, and he also stays very late and has tremendous Mesiras Nefesh himself and his wife and his family coming back at ridiculous hours at night. But then eventually they go to sleep. And most guys, let's say, have 10 o'clock Ma'ariv, and then that's officially when the night's over.
So 3 starim a day, 3 intense starim a day. Most of them do college. College is compact sort of between the starim, but it's a legit, rigorous, and a Torah degree, not online, but an offline degree. And but 3 starim, 3 intense starim a day.
Allow me to clarify just on that point for 1 second, just because some people had a misconception. The guys take one double class every single day. So 4 days a week, they're actually taking 12 college credits throughout the week, which they're already full-time students. And in theory, they're able to take other optional courses as well. So that class.
So many more rebbeim to bring in. So even though we could talk to each forever, but Rabbi Stoll, wind us out with Hey Teves. You probably are unfamiliar, but on the Lubavitch calendar, it's a date that we buy Sfarim. First of all, tell us about the Sfarim that you've written, and tell us about what is the most recent Sefer that you've purchased.
I have a fetish for Svarim, I have to admit. So I just get whatever comes my way. I love Svarim. So I'm learning Ksubis right now. So if I find something on Ksubis, I buy it. Hanukkah was just now. I got Rav Yonis and David. I like the Pachid Yitzchak, Yonis and David, that type of Torah. You name it, I love it. And my Rebbe, I'll finish with this, I guess. My Rebbe, Moshe Stav, I literally just whatever I try to follow him in basically anything he does. So yeah, he knows Kol Torah Kula. That's the one way I'm not following him, unfortunately, but I'm trying. But he walks around the base medrash and just like picks up svarim just because he's interested. He eats it like candy. So I don't know if I have even an ounce of that, but he just loves svarim. So in terms of what you name it, I love it.
And what about your svarim? Torah Sakavod, deeper look at Sefer Yeshua, Otzar Simcha. Tell us about your svarim for 2 seconds.
Make sure to learn Shas, learn the Rambam, learn the Mishnah Berurah, learn the Ikarim, and you'll become a great Yid.
Rabbi Broide, you're gonna start the daily learning of Rabbi Rafi Stoll's farm.
It's amazing.
Really amazing. People look on Sefer Yeshua. Our Mashkiach published farm.
Let me ask a question: is anything in the yeshiva open to the community? Are there shiurim or classes or times during the week which people in the community can stop in?
Absolutely. So first of all, the base medrash is open in general. We have community members dropping in. We're not actively bringing people in, but people that come in and that ask about it, we're happy for them to come in for davening, for shachar, mincha, mariv, for different morning seder, afternoon seder. We actually have a few working men that actually learn morning seder with us every single day. It's very inspiring. At night, different people drop in, and then there's shiurim also. In particular, Rabbi Levin's Tuesday night Hasidus Chabura draws in some people from the community. But different nights we have different shiurim, different chaburas. And January 2nd, I don't know if this is where you're going with that, but January 2nd, we're having a special Yom Yun. It's a national holiday. People are off, and we'll have shiurim from Rabbi Goldberg, Rabbi Levin, Rabbi Rosenfeld. Very special program with breakfast served. Thank you, Rabbi Broide.
That is a good segue. But it's important to mention our kollel joins the BRS Erev Shabbos kollel every Friday morning. And Rabbi Carmeli gives a shiur on Panemius HaTorah at the shul, and others give chaburas or Rosenfeld, Steinmetz. There's a lot of interaction. But the yeshiva is not set up as a community kollel, who that's its purpose. It's a standalone, primarily yeshiva for its Talmidim, but then also is taking its energy and its light and sharing it more broadly. Could speak to each of you for hours, and this is so hard. We'll have to continue and do part two. A big yeshikoach and a kol hakavod and a thank you for what the two of you are both doing, and so deeply appreciative of everything that you're doing. Kosh Baruch Hu should continue to give you kochos, to be on fire, to be contagious, to be inspiring, to be lighting, to be publishing, to be doing all the wonderful things that you're doing.
Amen.
Thank you. Oh, now we have the privilege of welcoming to more of our incredible Rabbeim, Rabbi Yitzchak Rosenfeld, Rosh Kol, Rabbi Yaakov Steinmetz, Rabbi Magid Shir Raman, our Yeshiva, Rosh Masifta. It's wonderful. Thank you for going behind the Bima with us.
Thank you for having us. Very excited to be here.
Amazing to have you together. So where should we start? Let's start with the Kollel. Rabbi Rosenfeld, tell us a little bit about your background and where you were before you became the Rosh Kol of the Yeshiva of South Florida, and why take that, both of you, Rabbi Steinmetz also. Big risk. You gave notice, you packed up your stuff, you gave up your home, and you came to Florida for a pipe dream. What made it worth the risk?
Florida is beautiful. So I grew up in Westchester, in Scarsdale. And yeah, Scarsdale. We have Machatonim.
Jake
right?
Manis.
Yeah, sure. I saw him in Boca a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I grew up in Scarsdale. The last few years, I was a Rebbe in Landers. I'm a Talmud Rebbe Sachs, so ended up there. And honestly, I came here mostly because very good friends with Rabbi Steinmetz here. But honestly, it was so exciting to be able to start something new, to be part of something growing from the beginning. I love being in yeshiva. I love seeing Bachrim grow and learn and be happy, and really just love being part of yeshiva. Seeing people learning and growing is really just an unbelievable source. And the opportunity to do it here in such an unbelievable community, welcoming people who are really thirsty for learning and for more involvement of Torah, was an unbelievable opportunity. I really could not pass up. And it's true, it was a risk, but honestly, I had confidence in Rabbi Goldberg that failure was not an option. So I figured we would give it a shot. Worst case scenario, live in Boca for a couple of years. There could be worse things. So Baruch Hashem, really things have been unbelievable. And being part of the kollel and being able to sit with Bnei Torah who are advanced in learning and being able to be part of the kollel. I learned both starting with one of the members of the kollel, is an opportunity that is really beyond really a dream. Really a dream.
We're so lucky that you took that risk and that you're here, Rabbi Steinmetz. How important is it to you when you think about our Bachram, our inaugural first year, the boys, the students, the Bachram who are here? They come from diverse yeshivas, to a certain degree, diverse even backgrounds, which is really for me personally, but it's part of a dream of a yeshiva that Torah unites and Torah is that shared vocabulary and connection. How important is that to you that it can be a place that diverse people can feel comfortable? There isn't like hashkafik hack and debate and fight and like dug in on things. It's a place of Torah.
I couldn't agree more. I think definitely we've come, I'm from West Hempstead, New York, more, as you said, hate the term minor Orthodox background, but I've undergone a transformation. We've all undergone transformations, and we appreciate the spectrum, and we appreciate what each particular chelik of Yiddishkeit has to offer. So to come to a place where all of those externals are, sort of culled away, and everyone is just there to, as sincere Ovdei Hashem, looking to grow, to develop themselves. There's nothing more pure and sincere than that. And it's such a zchus to participate in that and to facilitate that.
So, Mr. Steinmetz, what's your dream? What's your vision? The Bachram, as a Rebbe, they're still a very formidable age. They've been in Israel a year, 2 years. Certainly they were impacted enormously from that. But now they're already beginning to think. Some are in college. They're going to start to think about getting married and building their own home. What's the hope and the dream for your Talmidim when you will see them in 5 and 10 years from now?
It's a great question. I think there are many different spheres of life. There's the family sphere, there's the religious sphere, and the professional sphere. I think that each one of them should be in a position of where they take achrayas, responsibility for their role in their family, for their Avodas Hashem, for their professional life. They are mature adults that take their role seriously. And they take life seriously, but again, with a certain simchas achayim. I think definitely part of the atmosphere we're trying to engender within the yeshiva is one very much of simcha, a light atmosphere. We always make jokes where the Talmidim, we have a wonderful time, Kiddush on Shabbos morning. You should come, maybe skip the drasha 1 week. We have delicious herring, and it's just the Rebbeim, the Kol, and the Bachrim sitting around having a beautiful time, sharing Divrei Torah, just laughing. It's such a beautiful atmosphere. So to someone to take that into life, where Avodas Hashem, family, the professional life are things that they take seriously, but they find joy in, is such an incredible thing that we're trying to convey.
And Rabbi Rosenfeld, for the kollel, they're at a different stage of life. So obviously they're there to learn and to be taught Torah at the highest level, but there's still a hashpah, there's still an influence, as even though they're married and have families, beginning families, what's the dream of the influence, not only on the knowledge and information of Torah, but beyond that?
Yeah, I think very similar to what I was saying for the Bachram, but obviously on a different stage of life. But just to see them be so connected to Torah on the one hand, and be so into what they're doing, that they're able to then begin to be mashpia on the Bachram in the yeshiva, and also on the community at large, giving them the opportunity to really connect to learning and to Torah in a deep way, and find their own way about what they're interested in Torah and what they find is their chelik in Torah, and then to begin to start spreading that in a natural and healthy way to not only to their families, but to the Bachrim in the yeshiva and to the community at large. Seeing them being involved, learning with some of the balabatim, and just really being involved in the whole community is it's an opportunity for them to continue their own personal development, but also to give them that opportunity to start being mashpia on their families as their families grow, and be mashpia on our yeshiva and at the community at large. And I think we've seen that already. Such talented really, they're an unbelievable group. It's really
absolutely for sure. Rabbi Broide, you want to? I actually know all these answers. I know many of the answers. I know the people. You should jump in.
This is incredible. No, this is incredible. I'm just wondering, do you have to go right now and start already recruit for the next year? And let's say someone's listening to this and they say, well, I didn't really know much about this yeshiva. How do I get more information? How do I find out if there's even a space for me for the coming year?
So I think the answer, as most answers to Yeshiva of South Florida, lies with Rabbi Simcha Shabtai. He is the source of all information. But yeah, Rabbi Levin and Rabbi Shabtai actually already went to Eretz Yisrael, round one, planting the seeds, raising excitement, getting word around. And Bez Hashem, Rabbi Levin and Rabbi Shabtai are going to go back in a month or two and try to, zone in more on particular yeshivos recruit particular boys, and definitely anyone who's interested, I think rss@yosf.org, or you can email Rabbi Goldberg. I'm not sure exactly what the process is.
I just forwarded it to Rabbi Shabtai. It's no problem.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, you mentioned before there was a consideration. Rabbi Goldberg mentioned this at the beginning of the show. There's consideration of what kind of yeshiva it would be. What is the profile now of the student? Like, who is the student that you are looking for, that you would hope to, would start applying and begin their journey in the yeshiva?
I think anybody who's really interested in learning and in growing in a very healthy and wholesome way. One thing that I think our yeshiva is unbelievable at is it's a really wholesome environment. It's the Rabbeim are around. There are kol members who are there for you, and the warm, small environment really provides. It's tremendously wholesome. The boys are involved in every aspect of the yeshiva. One guy makes the cholent for the Thursday night. One guy makes the potato kugel.
The kugel's in the oven right now. I don't know if you could smell it.
You can't smell it.
They don't have that technology yet. But,
we're coming over.
But they are part of the whole yeshiva. And one thing that I remember just being part of big institutions, so you become very focused on your own personal growth, and you sometimes are not involved in something bigger, not building something together. But our yeshiva, because we're at the beginning and we're really here for the Bachrim, they're involved in starting something together. It's a really wholesome environment, and they're able to grow in an incredibly healthy way. So that's just, if someone's interested in learning and growing and becoming their own Ben Torah, as Rabbi Stoll mentioned, we look for each Bacher. I think it was Rabbi Levin mentioned, we look for each Bacher something unique for them. It's a really healthy way to continue growing and learning and becoming a real Ben Torah.
That's important to say that the Yeshiva of South Florida is not looking to replace or close down or cancel any other yeshivas. There's incredible yeshivas. We are all Mismachim graduates, our Rebbeim, the yeshivas that we deeply appreciate and continue to support and connect with and learn from, and that are at record enrollment. Nobody's trying to. But for someone, this is small, intense, immersive. It's out of town, so to say, so that someone doesn't necessarily have the distractions and the competition for their time, for their attention. So it's really a continuation of a boy who did extremely well in Israel, in discovering himself and a yearning and a taste for learning, to continue in this immersive experience with a dormitory in the same campus where it's Beis Medrash and the workout room and ping pong table and outdoor courtyard are, but immersive and Rebbeim accessible all hours of the day and the night, in connection and closeness. And the Kol guys, it's another option. It's another option, a smaller option with college for those who want the college component of it. And it's filling that niche, which really beautifully that seems to be needed. So close us out, wonderful Rebbeim, Rabbi Rosenfeld, Rabbi Steinmetz. Hey Teves, what is your most recent or most beloved sefer that you own?
I think I recently purchased two Sefer. One was a sefer from Rabbi Reuven Loichter on Tefillah. Rabbi Loichter, I got very into him over the last couple of years. And an amazing sefer called Mincha Shlema on Masechus Tmura. So that's just a little hobby of mine.
Brother Broide, you have that on your night table?
Yeah, Tamura. It's coming up right after I finish the Kitzur. It's coming up tomorrow.
And Rabbi Steinmetz, what about you?
I hope this isn't a cop-out, but I recently got Otzar HaChachma, so I think I bought around 100,000 Svarim. When you move to Florida, you don't have access to big libraries. But I recently bought the Kloisenberger Rebbe biography for my wife. So, and it's a different type of sefer, but it's a tremendous sefer of Mesiras Nefesh and focus in times of hardship.
Wow.
Amazing. Beautiful. We thank you for all that you do for the yeshiva, for Klal Yisrael, and for bringing your talents to South Florida. You took a risk, and hopefully it's paying off the reward, and should continue to pay off rewards in this world and the future for many years. So big yesher koach. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the privilege now of welcoming on two of our Kolol guys, Rabbi David Bogopolsky, Hamachuna Bugsy, and Rabbi Shlomo Carmeli, Hamachuna Rabbi Shlomo Carmeli. It's wonderful to have you on. We're going to be speaking to members of the Kolel, and the Kolel is a huge part of our yeshiva. The energy, the example, the learning, the knowledge and not only for the yeshiva, for the boys of the yeshiva, but outwards towards everyone else. So it's wonderful. I know Rabbi Carmela, you just came from giving your chabura at BRS, Pnimius Torah, on Wednesday nights. Rabbi Bogopolsky is a fixture on Friday mornings, and Shabbos Kollel, and so much more. Both of you, to talk about where you come from, both your own biography, but in learning where you come from, because I think the Kollel, even more than the guys in the yeshiva, really represents a lot of diversity. Come from a lot of different kollim and yeshivas, and I think it's one of the things that excites me the most. I don't want to spoil my drasha, maybe the Shabbos, al tirgazu badarach, but the notion of not getting angry about someone else's derech, finding your own derech, and the beauty of our yeshiva, you can feel comfortable from diverse places. So right. I think Rabbi Bogopolsky is older. So Rabbi Bogopolsky, Bugsy, we allowed to call you Bugsy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Is Rabbi Bogopolsky from San Diego?
That's my father.
That's your father. Did a seed program in your shul.
Just seriously?
Yeah, back in 1998. It was actually
when you were in Eretz Yisrael?
Yeah.
With
Rabbi Bogopolsky, were you in diapers? Were you in diapers then? Were you
I was 6 years old. I was probably on your shoulders, Rabbi Broide.
You probably were. So it's actually really funny because it was the year after we got married. So I told Simone, I got a great thing. We're gonna be going to LA for a honeymoon. Go to San Diego. A week-long seed program.
She's still waiting for that honeymoon.
She's still waiting.
All right, Rabbi Bogopolsky. So now,
okay. So as you know, as the cat's out of the bag, I'm originally from San Diego, California, but recently I spent the last 12 years of my life living in Eretz Yisrael. I was there in Taras Moshe. Rabbi Broide, I believe, you're also in right. For a short zman. I recently heard.
Rev Shurkin.
That's right. We can talk about him also. So I was in Taras Moshe as a bacher for 4 years. Then I went to Lakewood, BMG, for a short 2 zmanim. Got married, Baruch Hashem, pretty quickly, and I came back to Eretz Yisrael, and I learned for 8 years in Taras Moshe, and I taught Night Seder in Or Yerushalayim. I gave a B'kiyah year for the last 3 years of my time over there.
So what made you give it up? You had a good thing going. Ramat Eshkol, Rabbi Weinfeld, Paran, iced coffee, also all the learning and all that other stuff. What made you give it up? The palm trees of Boca.
It was a dreadful decision. It was very tough, but it was hard, very hard, really. But my wife and I, we were deciding we had to make the call. Are we in it for the long haul, or we're moving back? We had to decide, and we decided for our family, our children. It was the right thing to do. I spoke to my Rabbi, and they were very encouraging to come to the United States. And then this opportunity came up, and what better opportunity than starting in a yeshiva, ground up. Your input counts. It's amazing. You get to keep learning, making an impact on Bachar. It was a no-brainer.
And that was important to you, meaning you didn't jump into Rabbanos or Chinuch, or you wanted to continue learning. So to be part of a kollel was.
At certain points of my career, I was thinking about which Klei Kodesh position I guess you can call it. I would go into. So I originally started with Rabbanos, and then my father's like, no. so then and then I found that I had kind of a kayak with Bachar, in Or Yerushalayim. I was doing good things over there. So once this came up, I was happy to continue, only to get better at being a Rebbe and things like that.
Amazing. Well, we're lucky to have you, and it's great that we have you. Rabbi Carmeli, talk to us about where you're from, your background, what you were doing before you joined our kollel.
So I grew up in Woodmere, New York. I learned in Yeshiva Torah for pretty much my whole life, from nursery till I graduated. It's a big schos. And then afterwards went to Eretz Yisrael, learned by Bnei Moskowitz in Medrash Shmuel. And then I came back. Rabbi Warmager, who is a mutual Rebbe, opened up a kollel for a year called Emek HaMelech. So he called me when I was learning in Medrash Shmuel and asked if I would like to join. So I came as a bacher. Rabbi Yossi Zakatinsky was there, Rabbi Reuven, Rabbi Levin was there. It was a great group of obviously tremendous. It was a big schos for me to be there. And then I got married. I then moved to Eretz Yisrael, and I learned by Yitzchak Berkowitz, Shlita, who you have Goldberg had the opportunity to meet with me. And I was there for 3 years. I got to meet by him, and that's where I am now.
Amazing. And what made you want to come down here? What made you take that leap?
So Rabbi Berkowitz, as you know, very much, he's very idealistic, and he pushes a lot of his mismachim to go out of town and try to make an impact on communities, smaller communities. Realistically, my wife and I are both from 5 towns, so I think Boca is the most out of town you're going to get from 2 people coming from 5 towns. You're not going to push it much further than that. But so that was like, idealistic enough for us, coming from the Berkowitz angle. And of course, by Levin, I grew up, for the past 6-7 years that we, daven next to each other in British. So when he was starting this yeshiva, we had a little bit early access into, what was going on, the talks and things. So we were schmoozing about it, and then he thought it would be a good idea. Spoke to Rabbi Shabtai, and that was it. And we were all in.
Were you? I'll ask both of you. Were you concerned with whether the kollel would gel? Right. So Rav Berkowitz's kollel, right. Tomo. We have people that came out of YU. Land. It's a big mix of where guys are from. Was there concern? Guys come from different backgrounds. They've been learning in different places. Will it gel? And have you been pleasantly surprised? Are you happy to see that it is gelling? And I don't know what you're going to answer this because I didn't tell you that in advance. That question.
I'll let you go first.
Play the breaking news.
I think it gelled more than I could even imagined it. I think when it's really, when you're focused on a single thing, we're focused on our learning and studying and growing together, and the yeshiva, it's a bigger picture. And we sort of all those things sort of fall away, and you're all united, in this mission of growing and learning and building the yeshiva. And it's really unbelievable, like how close we all are, considering our very different backgrounds, as you mentioned.
I agree to what Shlomo Carmelli just said, but it happens to be, I'm going to say that before I did come, I was definitely concerned. All I knew was a face and a bio of everyone, and I knew Rabbi Carmelli just from seeing him on Yom Tov as he's going to visions every morning, and I was very, very curious who this guy was that I was going to go hang out with.
I opted into my wife, so I got to.
Yeah, that's true. Also, yeah. But no, but really, as Rabbi Carmelli said, it really gelled amazing. Really, and it's such a good vibe. It's really good.
What the balance between your own personal learning and to be in a kollel that's in a yeshiva in its first year, the responsibility or the opportunity, I should say, to have a hashpah, to have an influence on the bachram. How does that play itself out? You have chavrusas with the boys in the yeshiva? Is it just that you're there to talk, to schmooze things out, to have them over? What's the interplay between the kollel and the guys in the yeshiva?
So I happen to be the Shalom Mesha for second Seder. So I don't have a chavrusa then. So I'm very much involved with the boys, constantly circulating the Beis Medrash, engaging with everyone. We have them over for Sudas. I'm having Bakram this week, which is actually it's a very nice thing. As we were leaving Eretz Yisrael, it's very nice to have Bakram. It's like they keep you young. It's just geschmack. And the fact that we can continue that over here, it's like amazing. Like in Boca Raton, you can have Bakram over. It's really amazing. And in terms of our own personal growth, Baruch Hashem, I was able to be in kollel for a long, long time. So I'm happy now that to juggle that balance, at least to not only have to focus on my own personal learning, but to continue learning with Bakram and making an impact on them. It's a perfect balance for me, at least in terms of where I'm holding at my age and where I want to be.
Rabbi Carmelli. And we should point out Rabbi Carmelli's brother is one of the Bachram in the yeshiva. So, but talk to us about that relationship. Not you and your brother. You don't have to share publicly right now, but with the boys in the
yeshiva. Yosef loves it. Yosef's really happy with it. If you notice the string lights by Levin, when he was talking on the Chutzner, Yosef put that up. He's very invested in the yeshiva, and he loves it there. My hadracha from my Rebbeim is very much like the Vilna Gaon's idea of hashpah, where you have the cup of Havdalah that pours over, and when one's working on one's inner mishkan, then Mamela becomes a place where people are inspired from. So we're a part of the yeshiva, but we're very obviously focused on our limud and our learning, and I think that Mamela that has a tremendous impact on the Bachrim. We're always there for them, and Baruch Hashem, there's the ratio, kollel staff to Bachar ratio is the high, the most in any yeshiva probably currently, which is so important because Torah is meant to be given over in that way, Rabbi to Talmud in that very close way. And even if we do learn with them, we learn Musar Seder every day. We have a kviyas the kollel guys learn with the Bachrim. But I just think being around, Bnei Torah that have been in yeshiva for a while and are living a life, and they come to the houses, like Rabbi Kowalski said, and they see how, a Torah family looks like, and how they're manning their home, and how they have a Shabbos Suda. That in of itself, just mamela, when you're growing yourself and you're, steiging in that way, they connected that, and that I, in my life, I had people like that I just grew just by being around them.
Right.
It's amazing. Broide, what do you want to find out from our incredible call?
I'm just wondering, you guys have been in so many different yeshivas all over the world. What makes being in Boca so different and so special?
It's very warm in every sense of the word. I wear a bekasho on Shabbos, and when I joined the community in August, it was quite an experience, to say the least. But it's a very warm community. It's in that sense different than where I'm from. There's not a lot of from Yidden in terms because it's so massive. There's just so many developments wherever you drive, everywhere. It's it takes very quick to get there because there's no cops in Florida and everyone's driving at 80 miles per hour. But everything's very far from each other. And you're driving by these developments and houses, and there's just a lot of people, and many of them are not. I grew up like in a shtetl, like almost. Pakistan is like in a certain sense, like you can't, if you wanted to not see people that you couldn't do it. It wouldn't work. You have to. Living your life there, you're gonna bump into people.
Right.
Okay, you could, mamish disappear and like no one would know. And it's so amazing how Goldberg and the communities here have built such a beautiful, oasis of Yiddishkeit in a place that's, so different than what we have, what we're living for and the values that we have. And that for me was like such a difference. Such an amazing difference to me. I remember my first Shabbos, I was walking in the park, there's like a shortcut, and you saw all these, different types of people, and different doing different types of activities that I wasn't used to seeing on Shabbos, etc. And I was just so amazed that like there's a thriving, from amazing, inspired community in the heart of South Florida. It was really.
Broide, you got to recruit Rabbi Carmeli to be doing outreach. There's 140,000 Jews in Boca Raton, 90% of whom are not affiliated at all. It's what you're describing, right? And that's a crisis that's going on, a catastrophe that's going on, and we need an army out there showing them the beauty, the passion that you and that what the yeshiva stands for. So it's definitely for you startling, but it's also a rich opportunity.
Yeah, it's opportunity. I looked at it more as a quiet. It's like, wow, like we're really here. Like we're doing, we're when we're polite, like it makes a difference. When we do something nice, like it makes a big difference. Many people who haven't necessarily seen it from looking, a coil guy before.
We're doing something. What was it like for your family to move here, Rabbi Carmeli? What's your wife doing?
My wife teaches in Hadar. She's an amazing high school that is, associated with BRS, and Baruch Hashem, she's very happy there. She's also a social worker. She counsels in Hollywood in a place called Yecholet. So Baruch Hashem, she's busy, and I have one daughter, Baruch Hashem, and her ganenet, is Israeli, so I'm not even sure if she realized she left. The last one. So,
Rabbi Bogopolsky, your family's happy. They've acclimated. Big change, Israel, all those years.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. The one concern everyone has is what's going to be with the kids, but they slid right in. Unfortunately, my daughter doesn't want to speak Hebrew anymore, which okay. We have to figure that out. In Boca, there's plenty of Israelis to talk Hebrew to.
They go to one of the many shawarma places every day for lunch. Plenty of Hebrew to be spoken.
Yeah. So, but no, Baruch Hashem, everything could not have asked for an easier transition.
Amazing. Let me close out, and then we have one more set of guests. Our other three. Members of the Kolel, and the last member of the Kolel, Baruch Hashem, just had a baby, so I was unable to join us tonight. We wish him a big mazel tov to Rabbi Dovi Marcus. A big mazel tov, a big simcha. A big simcha coming up, Shalom Zachar and Bris. But I'm going to ask the next three the same. I'll ask the two of you to close us out. You're in the Kolel stage. You're a little bit later on than the Bachram, than the boys in the yeshiva. If you could talk to the 19, 20-year-old version of yourself, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself? Right? If you could talk to you going into this level, Yeshiva South Florida, what would you tell yourself? Rabbi Bogopolsky.
So it happens to be, I have to admit, I have not had a huge transformation in the past 12 years of my life, but I will tell you, being said, seeing the the process and how, even if you don't make such a major transformation in your life, if you keep at what you're doing, if you keep doing the same thing, you don't want to spread yourself too thin and every 2 weeks feel like you need that new limud in your life in order to steig more. Stick to the basics, and if you do the basics consistently long enough, you'll become a Talmid Chacham. It's going to work out. You don't need
that, Brody?
Yeah, I'm thinking back to what Rabbi Frand would tell us all the time. He would say, listen, just enjoy and take advantage of every moment, because it doesn't make a difference if you're here for a year or 5 years. It's going to end at some point, and before you know it, you're going to miss this place. So just take advantage of every moment.
Although I would say, I'm sorry to interrupt to interview Rabbi Broide, who might be the most on fire Talmud in Boca Raton right now, but Broide, I think you're a great example that you don't have to be that age, right? Because you've had this resurgence of Torah learning and love, maybe more than you've ever had before, of a connection and a passion. And
something's coming back. I'm thank God, and I'm enjoying the new ride. Let's just say
something woke up inside you. So that's Reb Bugsy's advice. Rabbi Carmeli, what would you tell a younger version of you? You kind of have a younger version of you because your brother's in the yeshiva. So what do you tell him?
Don't be like me.
That's funny.
I if I know my younger self well, I wouldn't listen to what my older self had to say. So I don't know how much impact that would have, but I probably with something along the line. There's some truth to that. All Rebbeim say that take advantage of every moment, and I guess just it's one of those things in life that you don't realize how true it is. It just doesn't go in until you're saying that to the next generation. Right. And then you just become that cliche, and you're like, oh, I wish
Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Right.
That's it. Really just take advantage. I would say write notes. Time becomes, as life goes on, it's one of those things that time becomes more and more of a resource that as an author, it's taken for granted. And if you write notes and organize with your Talmudim, you won't have to go back to Ksubas and say, what was this? What did I do here? 7 years ago. What was in the last time we were there?
Well, we're so grateful that both of you ended up in Boca, and for all that you do for the yeshiva. How'd you do in the ping pong tournament? You both did okay.
I got knocked out the first round. First round was out.
First round.
We had a good game together, Bugsy. We had a good game. I mean, we were evenly matched. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Even. We won't say at what level, but even at some level.
Right.
Neither of you broke through to the finals, but we're grateful for all that you do for the community, the hashpah, the influence that you're having beyond the yeshiva in the community, and that you brought your talents and should continue to grow and celebrate together. So big yesher koach.
Amen.
Thank you. All right, and to round us out, we've got 3 more members of the kollel. I don't know how to put everyone on the bottom. I don't know how to organize this best. Let's see that. Does that work better?
Okay. Rabbi Foreman can be an honorary host, I said.
Yeah, exactly. So we're very grateful to have Rabbi Yehonatan Drury and Rabbi Gabriel Foreman, Rabbi Moshe Weiser. Thank you so much, members of our outstanding kollel. And each different story, different background, different route to be able to get here. I'm going to take a route to figure out how the best it felt. But Moshe, maybe we'll start with you, because I think it's maybe most unusual in the kollel. This was not the track and the trajectory. This is an interruption to your life, which ironically maybe is the biggest model and inspiration for the guys in the yeshiva, somebody who already was a balabas, so to say, that next stage of life, and said, you know what, but I'm taking time off to go back to kollel for a bit. So talk to us.
Sure. I might come and join you.
Please do. Plenty of open spots over here in the Yeshiva South Florida kollel. So what they're calling it is the Levin route. So I started and I was in Yeshiva Netiv Aryeh for a couple of years. And after that, I went to Yeshiva University. And I was learning in Yeshiva Gedol 5 towns for a couple of years after that. And when I got married, I began working at PwC, which is a public accounting firm in Manhattan, as you might have already heard from Rav Levin. And, we just didn't feel that we were ready to, I didn't feel I was personally ready to be a working man. I felt I still had a lot to work on. I felt it wasn't my time to leave the Beis Medrash. I wasn't happy with the situation. And we were really just waiting for the perfect opportunity to join and go back to the Beis Medrash and rejoin the cultivated Beis Medrash. And when we saw the Yeshiva South Florida was opening up, we were just super excited about the opportunity. My wife's from Florida, so that worked out perfectly for us. And we haven't looked back since. It's really been an incredible experience. And honestly, personally, for me, I'm not sure how much I've given to the yeshiva, but I can tell you that I've grown exponentially, and I've taken so much just from the Bacher and from the Anhala and everyone involved.
I think it's one of the focuses of the yeshiva, of every yeshiva, but of our yeshiva, is to not just be teaching the boys in the time that they're in the yeshiva, but to be doing so with an eye to the future. What do you need to know, and who do you need to be, and what habits do you need to form to be that Ben Torah for life, even beyond that. You don't, graduate and then you take on a different stage and your years of growth are over. The tagline of the yeshiva is don't just continue learning, continue growing when you come back and come to Yeshiva of South Florida. So as I was saying before, I think having somebody who had moved on to that stage and now is back and learning, and Rabbi Shabtai mentioned there are two other people who come learn every morning at the yeshiva, which is amazing. There's a lawyer who works on California time, which means he doesn't start till the afternoon. He comes every morning, and others. And what an example. So, when people professionally are paid to be the example, that's not even as strong as the people who are interrupting their life and just valuing, which is amazing in its own right. Rabbi Drury, representing the Sephardic influence at the Yeshiva of South Florida. Talk to us.
Yes, I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to KBY, and then I spent the last about 11 years in Washington Heights and YU. And this is really very different. It's smaller. Everyone knows everyone's name. And it's incredible. I mean, like the environment is, as everyone has mentioned, but it's uplifting. We're all together. We're like mamish all together. And it's great. For me personally, I'll say, I'm on the older end of the Kolo guys, I guess. And for me to have the opportunity to stay in learning, because after all, yeshiva is an opportunity to learn at the highest level. And I wanted to continue doing that. And because we're not done after just, a few years, it's a lifelong mission. But at the same time, to be in a position to really give back and to be part of something where everyone's role is essential. It's just like, it's a geschmack opportunity. I'll say it like that. And I know I'm Sephardi. I do say geschmack also. I've been in both, in all environments, I guess.
It's great. A perfect blend. Rabbi Foreman's not a stranger because recently we did what became very popular and a tremendous amount of feedback. Your family courageously. We had a panel discussion in a different context, but in this context, Rabbi Foreman, share a little bit about your background and how you ended up in the Yeshiva of South Florida Kolo.
So I'm looking forward. Hopefully soon I'll get an individual interview on Behind the Bima to make it a trifecta.
That's right.
I grew up in Teaneck. I didn't realize that Rabbi Goldberg, you also grew up in Teaneck, but I wish you would have crossed paths earlier. I went to Reshit for 2 years following high school. I spent a post-Pesach Zman in YU and then switched to Lander College for Men, or Beis Medrash Talmud. And I spent the past 5 years learning there, pursuing a undergraduate degree in college, and then smicha and staying for kollel. And how I made it here to sunny Boca Raton. I actually came down here, I think 4 years ago for the summer kollel that Rabbi Shabtai mentioned before.
Right.
And I became an instant chassid of Rabbi Goldberg and of the Boca Raton community. I fell in love with what was going on here. I saw just a growth-oriented and a tremendous trajectory towards growth in this community for Yiddishkeit, for Torah values. I just was very inspired by the thirst for Torah here. And I told my wife when we were dating and we were talking about where are we going to move. So I said, we're going to stay in Queens. I'm in Landers. I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. I want to make it to Israel eventually. The only other place that I would move would be Boca Raton. And she kind of laughed and said oh, Boca Raton. Okay.
Hilarious.
And then I heard that the yeshiva was opening up. I actually was in touch with Rabbi Shabtai over the years since the summer kollel, kept in touch with him to some extent. And I called him and asked to join the kollel. And there was positive response. And I went to my wife and I said, we're moving to Boca Raton. And she said, you're crazy. But we made it down here. And
it's funny.
I think, you were mentioning before the influence that the kollel, that Rabbi Weiser brings to the yeshiva as being someone who's had a professional experience in life and now is back in learning. I find for myself that I think in kollel, there is a natural tendency to kind of fall into not necessarily great habits and like get used to the fact that you're learning every day, and it can get a little stale and a little bit habitual and rote. And I think when I daven at a shul like Boca Raton Synagogue, and I see professional people who wake up at like 4 a.m. to have their pre-shacharis learning seder and chavrusas, and people who come in and are in scrubs in the middle of like performing surgery, and they come have a chavrusa like in the middle of the surgery. And like you see people who are like really just like thirsting for Torah. So that for me has impacted my learning. I'm the guy who's sitting and learning, but like I see these people who aren't being paid to sit and learn. And for me, that's been an amazing.
I love that. I love that, and I didn't set that up whatsoever. That's amazing.
I'm not reading off the script down here. Don't worry.
That's amazing. That is such a beautiful, beautiful thought and a really beautiful insight, which is amazing. So, Rabbi Drury, when you think about yourself at the age that the boys in the yeshiva are now, do you look back and say there were things you wish you did differently that you could tell yourself then, and maybe you need to tell them now?
So good. I mean, there's I guess the one thing I would think of right off the bat is pasuk. The pasuk says Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha. So it means take day in, day out as it goes, and remember that you're with Hashem and that Hashem is guiding you. And eventually you'll reach the goals that you want to reach. You have to have goals, but when it comes to the day in, day out, don't sweat it too much. Come to Seder, learn, do what you got to do. That's I get along the lines of what Rabbi Bogopolsky said before I was on. But I really just Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha, I think, captures it all.
Amazing. But why is it the kollel ever have fun? Is it super intense all the time, or is there an opportunity for the kollel families and can have fun too?
I've never had more fun in my entire life than the Yeshiva of South Florida call, where we have a great time. I mean, we have masibas together. We're involved in the community parties as well. Everybody just gets along. It's a great group of guys. The Bachram as well, just really incredible. Every day I smile the whole day, laughing, learning, whatever.
It's amazing. It's a great environment. It's a warm.
Rabbi Goldberg, if I can interrupt also, the women, the wives of the kollel and the rebbeim also have opportunities to get together. They have malava malkas and other things. So
nice.
we're bonding relationships as families, and also the women, also the men, everyone. It's really it's great.
That's fantastic. Rabbi Foreman, you having fun?
I'm having fun. I'm having a lot of fun. I drive an electric scooter to yeshiva every day. I go down past the canals, the sunsets, the sunrises, the palm trees. It's really
hard to believe.
It's an amazing opportunity to just like have to be able to leave the base medrash and not have to worry about alternate side parking and snow shoveling and tickets, and like it really just gives you a certain level of yeshiva das that like allows you to learn more and better.
Do you worry for next year and the third year that in these early years, please God, the yeshiva next year will double, maybe more. And so, do we worry that we're going to lose something, that small and that warmth and that initial feeling that we're building something? It's exciting to grow with bigger numbers and more people and less room in the base medrash and a greater kol Torah, but do we worry we'll lose something special?
I think some of warmth comes from numbers or lack of numbers, but most of the warmth comes from the personalities and the rebbeim that sit in the front of the base medrash and the types of get-togethers that we have and the type of environments that we are creating right now. And I think that right now we're laying the foundation, and we're building a fun and warm and growth-oriented foundation that hopefully everything that gets built after that is just going to continue on that foundation.
That's great. Rabbi Drury, what would you say if a word association, Yeshiva of South Florida, what comes to mind?
Good vibes.
There's
energy. There's real energy. You walk into the base medrash, you walk into the dining room, you walk into the chatzer. There's good energy. That's what I would say.
There's good energy. Amazing. Ramosha, what's the latest sefer that you bought, or the sefer that you own that you're most excited that if you were I'm going to change up the question for the last group.
Desert Island Sefer.
Desert Island Sefer.
Based on watching the last guest, so
yeah.
Desert Island Sefer.
Desert Island Sefer. Well, my favorite Sefer on the Parsha is Me'am Loez. Is kind of like a compilation of all of the Mefarshim, all of the halacha, all of the medrash. So if I was on a desert island and I had that, I think I would still get like a nice little summarization of all the important things I needed to know. So
that's good. Desert Sefer. Rabbi Foreman, Desert Island Sefer.
It's also my most recent purchase, so I'm going to cover both questions here. I recently picked up Yefei Toar, which is a commentary on the Medrash Rabbah. I find it to be enlightening and eye-opening and enjoyable, and I think that would probably make it tolerable to be stranded on the desert island. So
that's great. Rabbi Drury, Desert Island Sefer.
Tshuva Shagas Aryeh. I don't want to run out of time, and if I'll be on the island for a long time, I will. I think great. Keep captivated for a long time.
Anyone who's listening or watching and doesn't know Rabbi Drury thinks that's like a flex or that's some manufactured answer to try to impress. But if you know Rabbi Drury, he means that from like his kishkas, Shagas Aryeh. That's amazing. Rabbi Broide, Desert Island Sefer.
Yeah, I would say that that new iPad that you got at the Art Scroll event, that's fully loaded.
That's a good answer. Or by Steinmetz's Otzara Chachma Drive.
Or just one share from Eli Stefanski. Keep me
Rabbi Goldberg, what would your Desert Island Sefer be?
Yeah, it's a good question. My Desert Island Sefer.
The one he's writing.
No, it's a good question. You know, I'm into Ravitcha Meyer Be'am Derachecha right now. I mean, it depends on the phase, depends on the time of day, depends on Masechta. I wonder sometimes, like if I ever were stranded on a desert island with one Masechta, would I really know that one Masechta well at least? Nothing else to read or learn or do or occupy your mind. Can we bring that mentality to learning even when we are distracted by so much else that we would if that were like the only thing that we can do? I don't know. I just told the story in the Parsha class that Neubert tells in the introduction to Shmir Shabbos when they were hiding 3 years from the Nazis. He had a Ksubis and a Chele Gimel Mishnah Berurah, which is why he ended up becoming an expert. And then the story of getting on the boat on Shabbos, and he pledged that he would promote keeping Shabbos, and he wrote Shmir Shabbos. But like how well he knew Chele Gimel and Ksubis, because when you're hiding 3 years and don't go near a window or sunlight and have nothing to do but keep reading and rereading. I wonder if we could bring that mentality even when we can be looking at and doing other things too. I don't know. Interesting question. Okay, Rabbi Broide, anything that we didn't cover tonight? We met the Hanhala. We met 5 out of the 6 members of the Kollel. Again, a big mazel tov to Rabbi Marcus on the birth of his son. And sorry he couldn't be here. We didn't meet any of the Bachrim tonight. They're all learning and steiging as they're supposed to be doing. But any closing questions, Rabbi Broide, you have?
Yeah,
what do you think
I'm trying to
watching wants to know about the yeshiva they didn't find out?
Yeah, for me personally, I'm just trying to figure out where I could fit in the schedule of the day just to be part of that yeshiva environment. I think I've really missed that, and I can't wait to
that energy.
Just to figure, and like, what time is it? In the morning? Is it late at night?
Yeah, go. You know, whether it's once a week, couple times a week, find a chavrusa, not even from the yeshiva necessarily, but just go learn at the yeshiva. Because that energy really is great, and it is fun.
And maybe that's a takeaway for anyone listening. You know, you live in a community. Maybe there is a yeshiva, but you never checked into it, or you just don't have you don't feel like you can walk in. You can walk in. They want to meet you.
Yeah,
have a chavrusa with you. Go in.
100%.
Go learn.
All right, Rabbi Foreman, Rabbi Weiser, Rabbi Drury, thank you so much for coming to Florida. Rabbi Weiser coming back to Florida, being your in-law. You're the best. You have the best in-laws, so it's easy to be near them. But thank you for all that you're doing and bringing to the yeshiva. It really means the world to us.
We're so lucky to have it in this community.
All right, Chevra.
Thank you for the.
Thank you,
Rabbi Broide.
Wow.
Closing thoughts.
Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't know. At first, I just met some of these guys for the first time, so it's a big honor, and I gotta I guess build up that courage to just go knock on the front door. I haven't seen the yeshiva yet. You know,
I'll tell you the highlight. I haven't been able to do it every week. Consistency has been a challenge, but I've been trying to have a chavrusa with my dad at the yeshiva once a week.
Yeah, nice.
And just, going there with my father and sitting in that base medrash and being back in a yeshiva atmosphere and learning with my father. It's so meaningful to me for so many reasons of what's going on there and being with my father and that energy. And there's a great energy. It's great guys and a great energy.
You know, one of the things I was thinking of when I saw that you were going to be doing this, I said, this is really got to be special for you. Because it's a project. You saw it through. You had an idea. It took a couple of years to put this whole thing together, and now it's actually happening. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's on autopilot, and I know that later some people will think I'm just saying this because I think I have to, whatever. But there are people who think I'm involved daily or I'm just taking away from other obligations and responsibilities, which is not true. It's not. I wish it were true. I wish I were there and could be there and could be there regularly. It's not true. But when I am there, it's a huge schos and a huge privilege. And like you say, it's an enormous nachas to be part of something yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. And to see an idea come into reality, it's like having another child. It's like
so I know you. So now that this one's checked off the list, what's next?
What's next? There's a lot of projects, a lot of ideas, a lot of things being worked on. We're never done.
Never done.
No, you always got it. It's always mostly for Holich, Beis Hillel, Hanukkah. You got to be always adding and doing and growing and building. And
I can't wait to see what's.
But you also can't rest on your laurels because the yeshiva start. So when I walk in there, I pinch myself. I still can't believe. I'm going to give a mashal. I'm going to get in big trouble for this. But do you know that most nights before I go to sleep, I go into my son's room and I can't believe he's here.
You're still doing
that?
Hashem,
I love my daughters. Insane. Every child, every healthy child is the greatest.
You're still doing that?
I have 6 girls. My son's 10 years old. And I still almost every night, I can't believe he's here. And I walk into that yeshiva and I can't believe it's here. This was a dream. This was a conversation. This was like wouldn't it be amazing? Maybe, what if? And now there's a yeshiva. Boys, there's a dream team of Rebbeim. There's a campus. There's a force. There's an energy. There's a Kol Torah. And I still go in there and I say, I can't believe it's here. But you can't rest on your laurels. This didn't come up tonight. Recruitment is a ruthless, competitive business. I'm not involved in most of it. The yeshiva is doing it. I'm like Mariana Rivera, previous guest behind the Bima. I come in at the end and try to close. But you're as good as your next group. So year one, amazing. Couldn't be better. Bli Ayin Hara, the group of guys, the group of the Kol, the Rebbe, it couldn't be better. Dream team of everything. Dream come true. But please God, it'll only continue to go Mechayel Achayel. Hashem, hopefully it's giving Hashem a nachas ruach.
I'm sure these guys will tell their friends, And
hopefully now it's giving Rabbi Sformas Allah Shalom and the Olam HaEmes as he's meeting his maker. When he talked to us about meeting the creator, meeting his creator, again, want to dedicate and thank him, that generosity, that vision, all that he did for this yeshiva to begin. We're so deeply, deeply appreciative to him for that, deeply appreciative to everybody who's contributing and giving, and person who named the yeshiva and is the absolute senior partner in it happening. Wouldn't be here without him. He's just amazing. And we should just continue to grow with other yeshivas in our community and around the world, all complementing and all working together in partnership and all building Torah in beautiful, beautiful ways.
Amazing.
Rabbi Broide, till next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay holy.